what's up, DIYers? Mike Borders with the Mike Borders channel. Thank you for watching. We're talking outboard boat engines today, and we are going to remove the fuel pump on our Mercury Mariner 40 horsepower outboard. Let's get started. All right, DIYers, we're at the pontoon boat, and on the back of my parents' pontoon is a 3-cylinder 40 horsepower Mariner engine from 1998. And again, in today's video, we are going to replace the fuel pump right down there. Down in the water, and to a close-up view of the fuel pump. As you see, in our case, it is an electric start, not manual. However, our exact serial number, it doesn't matter if it's manual or electric, it's the exact same part number. Down below in the comments and description will be a few options to replacement pumps, both OEM and aftermarket. First thing we are going to do, come to the back, and we are going to carefully disconnect the fuel line. Push in and pull, and no fuel at this point can be pumped in to the outboard. Camera in position, and I have zoomed in so the clarity around the fuel pump may be a little blurry. And again, focusing on the fuel pump, we've got 4, in our case 5/16 bolts that secure the fuel pump to the engine block. However, the lower right hand bolt doesn't actually feed all the way through the fuel pump housing and into the engine. Its sole purpose is just to secure the 2 plates and additional gaskets. And in addition to the 4 bolts, we have 3 fuel lines, and the fuel line on top, which feeds up and secures into the elbow fitting, and the one on the left hand side or upper left feeds into the in portion or inlet of the pump. And as the fuel pump pumps the fuel upstream and into the filter, that is the out portion and feeds directly up into the filter and into the carburetor. And what we'll do first is snip away this zip tie and pull this fuel hose off. As you do this, just go extremely slow, be precise, do not rush anything, don't damage anything. Again, I've got paper towel down below. I will carefully pull up on the hose. Be careful with this electrical wiring. Do not damage it. And worst case scenario, come in with a very fine tip flathead screwdriver and basically separate it from the elbow fitting. If that doesn't work, I got a very fine tip pick tool. Just get it underneath and just kind of take it around, break it up. There we go. As you see, I'll set that aside. And we're left with 2 additional zip ties, one on the right side feeding into the hose to the filter, and on the left hand side, the inlet port. I will come in and snip this one away, again being very careful that I don't damage the hose. Same thing, you may need a flathead screwdriver to come in here and separate the hose from the fitting. And it will leak fuel, and that's why I've got that paper towel down below. See that? I'll angle it down, and that leaves us with 1 more zip tie in there, and this is probably the trickier one to get off. Same thing, coming in here and creating a gap and removing the hose. There we go, pointing it down into the paper towel, as you see. From here, down below in the comments and description will be a link to this set of Craftsman tools. This is a 5/16 socket tip. I will start with the upper right and loosen and remove this. And that one's loose. That one's loose. At this point, all 3 that secure the pump to the block are loose. Let me see if I can carefully just shift it out. This little bolt right here is secured into a hook. Just lower it underneath or remove that bolt altogether, and you can pull this entire pump right off. It will leak some fuel. I'll allow it to leak right into the paper towel as opposed to anywhere else. Try not to drop and lose the bolts unless you're buying brand new ones, then it wouldn't matter. From here, the gasket right there. Let me show you a closer view. Going into a close-up view, and we are going to start with the fuel filter. As you see, video link number 1 down below in the comments and description will be a link on how to properly and safely replace your fuel filter. Very important. However, on the bottom portion, you see the elbow hose. that feeds into the out portion of the fuel pump, and then the elbow fitting is what secures to this hose. And then we've got that little hook, as I mentioned, right there. Below that, the inlet hose that feeds into the inlet port of your fuel pump, and there is the gasket. Let me raise this. And look at the orientation of the gasket itself. As you see, DIYers, again, a very, very good time to take a lot of photos. I'm going to carefully peel that off. And go slow. No need to rush it. There it is. I will set that aside. And as you see right here, just a little bit of gasket left over. I will peel that away with a flathead screwdriver ever so carefully. I do not want to gouge or scrape the aluminum block here. That will disrupt or make it much more difficult for the brand new gasket to create a fuel tight or watertight seal, as well as airtight seal. That's extremely important. Down below, same thing. I need to remove the remaining gasket. Now to the lower. Do your absolute best not to get any of the gasket inside the fuel ports. As far as the threaded inserts, not as bad, but that's your fuel import. Making progress coming into a close-up view of where the gasket was seated. As you see, there's the bottom connection coming up to the top, as you see. Just spend, again, a couple minutes just to ensure that everything is clean, surface-wise. Making a 180 to the deck. I've got the fuel pump on some paper towel and oriented in the exact same way it was just installed on the outboard. And again, on the left-hand side, you've got the inlet hose that secures into the inlet port and zip tied in place. Opposite end is the outlet that feeds into the hose and into the filter and zip tied. And then the barbed elbow fitting, which is zip tied to the smaller hose. And then on the back side is your gasket. And the upper and lower holes are where the bolts go in. However, coming to the pump itself, I do want to point out the bottom left just below the inlet and the upper right above the outlet. Those are the only two bolts that really secure it to the block. The remaining two bolts, upper left and lower right, are used to basically secure the housing just to a point where you can then carefully seat it into the engine block. And from there, you will basically secure all four bolts in a star pattern to create the seal and properly compress all of the seals and gaskets. And to answer the question, where was ours leaking? Well, when the engine was running, the gasket gave way at the very bottom and it was dripping aggressively out of the very bottom portion of the gasket between the outer casing and the inner right here. Back to the outboard engine and DIYers, that is it. Again, the proper and safe steps to remove a fuel pump from a 40 horsepower outboard, in our case 3-cylinder Mariner engine. And down below in the comments and description, video link number 2 will actually be rebuilding the fuel pump that we just removed, which includes the internal diaphragm and more. Again, we will rebuild it. Video link number 3 will be replacing it or installing a brand new pump, because you may not actually want to rebuild it. In other words, you may not want to go through the steps and heartache of taking the entire old fuel pump apart and removing all the old mechanisms and internal parts and installing brand new parts. You may just want to be off with the old and in with the new. Or what I mean by that is remove the pump that we just showed you and install a brand new, already overhauled or brand new OEM part or fuel pump. And again, down below in the comments and description will be links on replacement parts, including fuel filter, hoses, overhaul kits, fuel pumps, and more. And if you're wondering where our cowl is, well, it is getting refurbished and overhauled. Basically, we removed the old decals and we're having it professionally painted and new decals put on. That will be video link number 5 down below. Definitely check that out.